Hello everybody, welcome to my channel CONSERVATIO on YouTube. My name is Mariusz Skrobała from Poland, and today joining me from Italy, a friend from CasaPound, Guido Taietti. Hello Guido.
Hello, Marius. Hello to everyone.
Guido, it's a great pleasure to see you once more because we did a video like more than 1 year ago, so I'm very happy that we are continue our talk.
My pleasure, absolutely.
Mostly I do talks in Polish on my channel, but you can find some interesting content in English there. I have also interviews with Alex Newman from United States, a journalist, and identitarians from Europe, Martin Sellner and Andrea Ballaratti. And today with Guido, we are going to talk about the political situation in Italy, especially your Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni. And Guido, please allow me to ask a very crucial question at the beginning. Meloni was said to be a right-wing politician, so I'm asking you, where are the deportations of illegal immigrants? Where are the naval blockades on Mediterranean? We don't see anything.
Absolutely, you don't see because there aren't any of them. I think that Meloni is a good conservative leader, which is already weird because in Italy, until 10 years ago, usually you don't use the word conservative for the right wing because in Italy there are a tradition, of course, between the fascism and the right in the and there are a good part of the right party which and the right militant which see themselves more as revolutionary and not conservative. And I can understand that outside of Italy it's very weird this narration, but I think that in the last 10 years Meloni is trying very hard and probably is able to close this mission. She's trying to transform the right tradition in Italy in a conservative tradition. Now she has taken this right tradition very different, very, for example, with a lot of equilibrium between workers and the economic establishment. And she has more or less transformed all of this in an American Conservative Party. This is his mission. But and so if you use this category, if you try to judge them and try to judge her as a conservative leader, I have to admit that is not a bad conservative government. But under the immigration point of view, this is more or less indifferent from a leftist government. If I see the number, for example, actually, globally in this year, 25, with Meloni, we have received more immigrants than during the last year, the leftist. The very different is that with the leftist, we receive a lot of illegal immigrants, and this government has created a sort of legal mechanism, and now we received the half people between half immigrants respect the past, but we receive a lot of more legal immigrants. So at the end of the day, actually today we have more immigrants than a leftist government. And actually, of course, as you can imagine, I really don't like this supposed difference between illegal immigration and legal immigration, especially in Italy, because the light is very easy to broke. The line is very easy to broke because it's very frequent that, for example, an immigrant come here with a temporary work permit, and then when the work is gone, he stay here, and so is for me at the end of the day is exactly like an illegal immigrant. And of course, but this is my personal point of view, and I assume that not all the Italian so radical. I don't think that in this time, with this situation, we can accept any kind of immigration, legal or illegal, because I think that actually we don't need workers because we have a lot of unemployment, especially in young people. And I am not sure that if our economic system is not able to use young Italian people who have studied with Italian school, I really can't see how we can use some African people who actually doesn't even speak in Italian. So I really can't see the logic in this plan. But of course, I can see why in Italy she has a very good consensus, and it's very possible that if we have in Italy an election tomorrow, it's very possible that Meloni is winning again. Because at the end of the day, if you don't watch the immigration situation, more or less, she's doing what she has promised. And the bonus point is that a lot of Italians, they hate so much the leftist, the Italian leftist, that they really think, okay, the worst right government is always better than the best leftist government, which I can understand. I'm not sure if it is everything and always true, but it's a very strong point.
Guido, I will compare her to Donald Trump in a minute. But first, I would like to talk about economics because you said they are bringing a lot of legal migrants. And who's doing that? I think it's the big business, the corporation, who is looking for cheap workforce because the wages in Europe, all over the Europe, are very, very low. If 100 years ago a guy working could sustain his wife and 5 children or 8 children, and now you are not able to sustain yourself or two-person with the wages that we have in Europe. And the big corporations are bringing a lot of people to lower the wages. That's a fact. And the second thing is, I think the left wing is allowing mass immigration because they are bringing new voters. First, they give them asylum, first, they legalize them, later, they give them citizenship, and this way, they create new voters for the leftist parties.
Yes, I think that this is literally what's happening, and I think this is why it's so difficult to manage the immigration issue, because if you see the issue, this topic under an abstract point of view, it's very easy, because if you speak with 10 people, more or less 8 are against immigration. Even a lot of leftists are against the immigration. And this is especially true in Italy, which was for a long time a country which we don't need a lot of immigration, because for a long time we have an economic system with a very small enterprise. And so in a very small enterprise, which are usually in a special countryside, you don't want to put too much immigration because it changes too much. And usually the chief of the enterprise is living in the same quarters of his workers. So for a long time, you don't want real immigration, because it was a cost even for your standard of living. But now, more or less, we are not able to. Is everything changed? But I think that this is the point. Even if no one really wants the immigration, the point is that the most rich people, they don't pay any price, and so it's very difficult to organize a political issue, because they can work on the left and on the right very easily. And so, do you see this in Italy, where the leftists want here the immigration under an ideological point of view, because they say the immigrants are good in itself, because they are not white, they are not European, etc., etc. But you can expect the opposite position from the right, and actually this is not the opposite position. This is the same position with a different motivation. The right want the immigration, but they say we want only the workers. Yeah, of course, but at the end of the day, is the exact same position.
Yeah, of course. I said that I will compare her to Donald Trump because in the situation that we have in the West now, Donald Trump is a right-wing politician. We could have a discussion about that, but taking the situation, he's right-wing compared especially to the leaders of Europe like Macron and Starmer, who are very, very far to the left. And since Trump took office, the illegal crossings from the border of Mexico fell almost to zero. He started deportations. The numbers are not so good, but they are getting better, I must admit. They put a lot of money for this deportation system. They are doing something. And what is most important, they have a list like of 20 countries, and people from those countries like Somalia, Afghanistan, are forbidden even to enter United States. So compared to Giorgia Meloni in Italy or other politicians in Europe, at least they are doing something.
Yes, yes, absolutely. In Italy is a discussion of this week because some journalists noted that in Italy the 9% of the population is immigrant and they commit more or less the half of the crime, which is very weird because actually this is not the 90%, the 9%. It was very worse because we have a lot of Filipino, we have a lot of Chinese, and of course they don't commit crime. So actually, the point is that if we use the same rules of the Trump, and for example, we close the right to come in Italy from Morocco and Tunisia, probably canceling the 1 or 2% of immigrant people in Italy, we cancel more or less the 20, the 30% of the criminal act in Italy. Of course, this is not my position. I am in this moment, I am against the immigration full stop, not because I think that we are in an emergency situation, but I can see from a more moderate point of view, I can see the logic of this point. Even if you are pro-immigration, you have to admit that some cultures are more compatible than other cultures. And it's very, very weird, the fact, and I think that especially on the leftist, this is something that is not political. This is something that is quite, psychoanalytical, because if you are pro-immigration, it would be a good move, in my point of view, say, we have to admit immigration people, and we don't want people who commit to crime. In this way, Italian people accept more easily the immigration. But they don't want this. They are even pro the criminal, and for me this is very weird. This is literally not a political issue. I think that is a sort of a psychoanalytical issue, because I think you are creating, it's more difficult now for you to create an argument or to explain to my father why you are pro-immigration. If you accept the idea that at least the criminal should not come in Italy, it would be very more easy, But they don't want this. They want literally like the Somalian situation in the USA, You say there are a lot of scam. It would be quite easy to say, okay, we want immigration, but not the scammers. But they are able to say, no, actually, we want the scammers too.
Yeah. But don't you think that the political left is responsible because the political left opened the gates of Europe, opened the gates of Italy, Poland, Germany, other countries to the whole world, to the immigration, because they are bringing new voters. And they are the political left, I say, neo-Marxists, socialist parties, and they are cooperating, in fact, with big business who wants cheap labor.
Yes, absolutely. I think that they are more responsible, and they have created a system where even if you are a right-wing party and you have won the election, actually it's not easy to fight the system, because they have created a judge system who is pro-immigration, a European system who block your government. I have to admit that, for example, the idea of Meloni to create a temporary center of to detain the immigrant in Albania, it would be, and from this point check and to take in Italy only the good one, it was a very good idea in theory, but actually, in fact, I can see nothing in reality because the Europe is against your work. They are pushing the Albanian government. The Italian judging system, every time an immigrant send a request to a judge, he'll obtain some kind of exemption because he's a politician persecuted, a gay, and something, blah, blah. So I have to admit that it's not quite easy because the leftists, they have already created a system which is going to work even if they lose the election. And of course, the point is, in Europe, a lot of government, as you have already noted, are leftist. So it's quite difficult to work in Europe with a conservative position or an anti-immigration position because actually you are in a minority.
Yeah, so I think we should push all the political class to do at least what Donald Trump is doing now at the moment, because the European leaders are doing nothing. And we have low wages in Europe. We have economical crisis. Our economics is shrinking everywhere. We cannot afford groceries. We cannot afford to have big families, and we are forced by the political leaders and by the political left to pay for immigrants from all over the world who get social benefits. There is something wrong with that.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I think that now we are at a point where even a lot of leftists they are able to admit that something is not working. The first Italian immigration wave, more or less, was at the 90s, and it was the Albanian people after the crumble of the Yugoslavia. But for example, it was completely different because usually at the time the Italian was quite moderate and not anti-immigration because they see that Albanians are more or less for us like the Greece people, are people that we know very well, people with a lot of in common of under a cultural point of view. And the fact that is now different is the proof that the point is not that Italian are racist people or the European are racist people. The point is that something is not working because in the past we have already dealt with immigration and we were, even the right people, more flexible. And this is exactly because this was a different time.
Yeah. Now I'm going to ask you a very important question because I want to find an answer why Meloni is not doing enough about the illegal immigration. And the question is, don't you think that she's a hostage of European Union, that they are standing above her and they are not allowing her to do something about it like Trump is doing in the United States?
I think that she is in a very difficult position, and I think that she's plan to become a conservative party. It was even because she know that if you are a conservative right, maybe you can go in the power in Italy, but if you are right with too much link to the fascism, it was impossible to be at the power. So I can understand which was the plan. And I can understand that actually she has at least two problems, and they are both not political problem in a democratic point of view. Because I mean, if tomorrow we vote, more or less, I think that she'll be able to win again. But she have at least two problems. One is the Italian judging system, because our judging system it is a very political power, and it was headquarter of the some kind of the leftist party, and it was part of a strategy of the Communist Party in Italy. In the past, they wrote about to conquer the judging system. We don't have the vote. We have to conquer the university and the judging system, etc., etc. And the other problem is that she is in Europe, and Bruxelles is a leftist, intrinsically a leftist power, and you have to fight against Macron, you have to fight against Sanchez in Spain, which is a leftist. So I can see that she's fighting a very difficult situation, and I think that she's strategy to try to be a link with Trump and try to use the US to be the link between the Europe and the US. It could be a good strategy. I don't know if will be the perfect strategy, but I admit that if you have a better contest, maybe when with Macron it will be gone, it will be more easy to work in this Europe. But at the moment is a very, very difficult situation. I totally can see this. I think that she's weak even without this contest under an ideological point of view, because as I have already said, I don't like the idea that you are able to put here to let to come here in Italy someone for work, but you are not able to check if he's actually working, and when the work is end, you are not able to come back to their home. So for me, is a not good strategy. For example, we have the number actually during the 24, so not this year, more or less the 10% of the immigration who has come here with a work at December 24, it was still working. So it means that the 90% of the people that you have counted as legal immigration actually now are illegal. So it's not a good strategy. You have to think something different. Yeah. But I can understand that this is an epochal fight. Yeah. It's not something easy, and I think that it's very possible that you have to think something new. You have to work, for example, with the government of the East Europe, which are more cultural on the point. And I think that it's very possible that you have to think something new, because the old Europe in this moment is the wrong Europe, absolutely.
Of course, I would say plainly that Brussels now is the world capital of something I would call neo-communism. That's a fact.
Yes, and I think that is very weird, because one of the because you can ask why the big capital in Europe wants immigration, and Trump it was able to push against the immigration, when in the US you have even more influence of the big capital in Washington. Why is possible? I think that the economic model which was chosen by the American system, and it was proposed by Trump and even Elon Musk, is that now we'll have a super technological economic model, and actually we don't need more immigration. In reality, immigration, it will be a cost in 10 years. Yeah. And I think that actually this is the only practical way, because you don't have to convince the real power. You have to find a way to convince them that that your position is more rational for them than the old position. And my fear actually is that the economic system of Italy is already done, is already deceived, and it chose to have low wage against the idea to try to fight the technological battle, because they think we are too much little, we are too much weak, so we'll be not able to compete with the USA or even the Germany, or maybe the Poland, for example, because you are in a good economic shape. And so we are pro-immigration, because our only solution to gain more time and more money is to not pay workers. And I think that this is my biggest fear, because if this is the actual argument, it's very difficult, because it's not a cultural argument, but a rational economic argument, and it became very difficult to change this intrinsic rational motivation for the immigration. But I think that actually this is the only explanation that I can find about why in America now you can be against the immigration. They are more capitalistic than us, so there will it has to be a rational explication.
Yeah. When it comes to United States, I think that the reason also is that still in the middle of United States you have a lot of conservatives, very religious, evangelicals, Protestant. They always during the 20th century tended to be very conservative and not pro immigrants. They are a very powerful fraction there. But Guido, if I can ask you, could you compare Matteo Salvini and Giorgia Meloni? I'm not an Italian, but what I know from the internet and your politics, I appreciate what Salvini did some years ago when he stopped the boats. He paid the price for that because he was accused of kidnapping. From what I know, that was the accusations of the prosecutors. It's complete madness. It shows us who's in charge of the judiciary and the institutions in the West. But I appreciate him because he was doing something. Could you compare them two? And could you tell us if there's any chance that Salvini could come back to the top spot and take over Meloni?
I'll start with the second question. I think that there are no chance that Salvini will come back to the first line for a very simple motivation. It was strongly pro-Russian in the past, and in this situation, this is a sort of pariah. Now you are a pariah in the first level of politician in Europe. The American, of course, they appreciate the point of Meloni, which was pro-American even when the party was the 2%. So if they have to choose, they will speak ever and forever with Meloni and not with Salvini. And Salvini now is in a very difficult situation because it was very strong when it was in opposition. Of course, it's more easy to be in opposition. But he have accumulated too much position, notice that you can't use when you are at the power, because they are too much, not radical, but too much non-institutional. And so I think that now is in a very difficult situation because he's not able to find a space in this government where more or less for the normal people, Meloni is doing a good job. And he can't be too much radical because you are the government. So if you do some kind of promise, you have to maintain. And so I think that it will be not in a super good position, even in the future. In the past, he was more able to keep the point during the fact that you have already explained. And of course, the idea that someone is kidnapping and the accusation of kidnapping was out of logic because, of course, kidnapping is taking someone in a place against their against their will. But actually, he was doing the opposite. He was doing, you can't enter here, not you can't exit here. So, of course, this is not kidnapping in every definition you choose. But it was a different government. It was a very special parenthesis in the Italian history where for example, in this time, it was in the government with the five-star parties that now they are more leftist than PD. Is something very weird if you are outside of Italy, but even for the Italian people, it's very weird to see the history of a five movement star because they look like the Brazilian party, where you are in the right in this year, and the next year you are in the left because you want to steal in the government. So I think that that government, it was in a very special parenthesis, and will not see something again. So I think that Salvini actually is not comparable, because even when they fight Meloni, Macron still recognize her as a politician and a chief of state. No one in the world think that Salvini could be a chief of state, because he chose too much populistic narrative. So he was very able to take the vote, but it's very difficult to go to speak when the diplomatic level is more high than a certain level. He's a good party leader. My definition is he's a good party leader for the election, but he's not a good politician when he's in power.
You said he was too much populist. It reminds me of the situation in the United States, because we had Steve Bannon, who in fact gave Donald Trump the first victory in 2016. A staunch radical, staunch populist, staunch conservative. I admire him a lot. He came to Italy some years ago because he was creating this movement to fight against the European Union, and Salvini joined him at that time. And it reminds me of this situation, because now Bannon is also not so close to Trump as he was, and he doesn't have such a great influence. It reminds me of Salvini in this position.
And I think that actually sometimes his populistic narrative, but which I can totally understand, because you are a politician in a democratic system, and so it was a very good strategy. But sometimes it was too much superficial. For example, when he was pro-Russian and he spoken a lot of pro-Russian, actually it doesn't make many sense, because Salvini, you don't know the Russian political system. So why are you speaking as you actually understand which is the right-wing people in Russia? You don't know. It's not, and he chose the pro-Putin position just because he saw that he's very popular in some kind of in a lot of Italian people. But I think that it was very superficial, because you know that especially in Italy, we are very controlled by the US, especially in international politics, because we have lost the war. So this is part of our price. And it's very weird when a leader of party speak too much about the how we have to manage the foreign relationship, because actually we don't decide this. So it's not very clever to be too much pro-China, pro-Russia, pro-nothing, because when the Americans say that stop, now you can't be pro-Russian, you are in the middle of nothing. And I think that Salvini was too much concentrate to take more vote as possible, and he take a lot of vote. He take 28% of his vote, the Italian vote, but for his party, the Lega Nord, it was more or less the double of the maximum of the party. So it was very able to take the vote. But the point is that when you take the vote, you transform them in seat, and then you have to transform them in political issue. Is able to take the first step, but is not very able to take the second and the third step.
Yeah. What's the situation with his trial at the moment? He was acquitted?
Yes, he was acquitted in the last month, totally acquitted, because the accusation, of course, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, but that's the way they work.
Yes,
Accuse you, although it's absurd, but
yes,
it takes
and
time,
people,
money.
And people doesn't understand how is work this situation, because in Italy, it could be enough have at least one trial, even if a trial where in 10 years you'll be able to win. But all your life it could be very changed. For example, if you have too little trial, even if a trial for small things, you lose the right to do something. There are some kind of law that it is more difficult for a politician go to an election if you have some kind of trial in course. So it was a very good system. And of course, you are a politician, but you are a man too, with a family, with a phone. And okay, your lawyer can see and say, yes, the kidnapping is totally bullshit, we win. Yes, of course, but kidnapping is 20 years of jail in Italy. So yes, of course, it could be a bullshit, but I can understand that this can put a little bit of pressure on your mind.
Yeah, of course. And it takes time, it takes money, it takes resources. That's the way they work. They want to intimidate you, to put fear into you. Guido, please tell me, what's the situation in the Mediterranean? The boats are still coming to Lampedusa? Because some time ago in Polish media, they wrote a lot about that. Now, nobody talks about
No,
that anymore.
actually, this is one of the nicest move of the Governo Meloni. Now we have more or less the half of the people in Lampedusa than the past years, because the strategy of the government is to anticipate this situation and try to work directly with African countries and use their navy against the illegal navy. So they are proving that it's possible do something. Maybe you can't obtain the 100% of the work, but the 50% it could be better than nothing. I think that it's very possible that the why we receive a lot of legal immigration is because maybe, I don't know, but it's possible that our government have obtained some kind of deal with African government. You'll check the immigration, the illegal immigration, and we'll help you with legal immigration, because there are this kind of plane that Meloni has called Piano Mattei. Mattei, it was the leader of the Eni, the state industry of petroleum in Italy, which was very popular in Africa. And this is a plan to concentrate our diplomatic effort in the future in Africa, which I totally agree, because I think that actually the Africa is the most important theater for the Italian now. But at the moment, we are not able to actually to judge it, because it's a very good idea in theory, but actually I didn't see some kind of practical result. So I don't know. But I think that everything this is in this big plane. You African people you'll check and you help us against the illegal immigration, and we'll try to help you with the legal immigration. It's for easy for us to speak to our people, because we are accepting workers now, and it's for easy for you because you are helping us, so we have more room to send money in Africa, to create some kind of project. Now they are proposing to create a professional school, Italian professional school in Africa. I love, because this is probably the less logical things that I ever heard in politics. But our government proposed to open Italian professional school in Africa, because in this way, in 5 years, we'll be able to accept African workers perfectly equal to the Italian workers, which is not logical, because you are using the taxes of the Italian workers to create non-Italian workers. And for me, this is out of mind.
But who came with that idea? It's Meloni government?
Oh, yes, the Meloni government. Yes. And the only good point, I think, that it's very possible this is the classical Italian idea that you start today and you'll finish maybe in 2000 years. So I'm not worried just because I know that is too absurd to work, but it's the least logical things I ever heard, even worse than the leftist position, because I can understand the leftist position. They are mad, they have some kind of psychoanalytic issue, and they want non-white people. Okay, you are mad, this is your position. But that you are trying to convince me as Italian workers that use my money to create someone who work at lower wages than me is literally a nonsense.
It's crazy, and it's happening all over the West, because we are paying for asylum seekers, we are paying for immigrants, we are paying for their social benefits with money that was taken from us with force by our governments. That's a treason. That's a treason. And from what you are saying, please tell me, is Meloni and her government a right-wing government? It sounds like some socialist Marxist craziness.
Oh, this is the 1 million question. The point is, what's our definition of a right? Because as you know, in academic, right and left, there are a lot of different definitions. I think actually she's a right-wing party, but in the Anglo-Saxon spin of the word, and not in a continental sense of the word. For us in Europe, in continental Europe, usually right has to do with identitarian, conservative. Usually in American and in UK, to be conservative means to be conservative under the cultural point of view, which is Meloni is. 5 years ago, the woke position, it was very mainstream in Italy, and under Meloni, the woke narration is completely disappeared. And I can see and I appreciate it, but I see that she is not an Italian right-wing position. She has a right-wing London position, where the Tories party in the UK, they think that to candidate a Pakistan candidate is a good idea. No, I think that she has done this step, and of course, I think that is not a good point. And the problem is, the Italian people are not used to see. They are not able to see because is too much out of their experience. This is very weird. They can't understand what's happening, and I see this, and I'm very worried, because I think that actually the conservative word and the conservative values as the UK people use is often the opposite as you use the word conservative, for example.
Yeah. You gave a great example, the Tory party, Conservative Party in UK. They went so far to the left that there's almost no difference with Labour Party.
Yes, the difference, it remained the cultural issue. You are pro-abortion, and yes, of course they are important issue. But if we are not in 10 years, we are not. It will be not Italian in Italy. Actually, I don't know. I am not able to understand if I have to be pro-abortion, against abortion. Nothing it will be important if you are not Italian in Italy and Europeans in Europe.
You asked the question how to define the political right, the right wing. You're Italian, so I can tell you for sure Julius Evola was right wing. But from historical perspective, Guido, Sforza family, Visconti family, they were 100% right wing, in my opinion, and they would bring normality and sanity if they were alive today in few weeks, I assume.
Yes. The point is that it's better today than 20 years ago. At the beginning of the 2000, all the leftist narrative, it was a lot more mainstream. The woke, the immigration, because I think that in the beginning of the 2000, the capitalistic system, it was more compact and more pro-immigration, pro-leftist, no border, one model for all the world. Now something is changing. Of course, the situation in Europe is less good that we want, but is still better than 20 years ago. Speaking of remigration, now is possible. We have a lot of different positions. We have a lot of different sensibility. I know that Ballarati has a different position from me, and it's very possible that, but now we are able to speak of remigration, and normal Italian people are able to listen us. So I think that now is very better than 20 years ago. There are a better situation because there are the windows of opportunity. If the remigration works and it will be a model, not for a single year, but for 10 years in the USA, it will become very difficult for European politicians, even the leftists say that remigration is not possible. And this is a big issue, no? And of course, there is the least, probably, and the least good news, but is a possibility because the history is very in movement. We have seen in Ukraine, but the possibility of the war is not the 0%. And the war historically is the most important and functional instrument of remigration, because no one won't die for a country that is not you don't want to die if you are here to manage our social system. So of course I think this is of course the least good news, but I think that the possibility of war is something that it could change the history of Europe, because I don't think that 1 million of Pakistani won't come in Europe if the situation it could be a little bit more severe or dangerous than 20 years ago.
I think Donald Trump changed the situation a lot in the West, and especially now Elon Musk and X, because Elon Musk likes to take anti-immigrant remigration policies, and thanks to him buying the X, he's spreading the message all over the world. The censorship is really low on X, so you can say a lot.
Yes, and the simple fact that he don't use the censorship of the right-wing position of X, he create a condition where the other social now they can't censorship because they don't want to lose too much public. And so I think that this is a very good example of how the things can work. If we'll see that remigration is a good model for USA, I really don't think that a new Macron in 20 years, it will be able to have the same room of the first Macron, because you can say everything you want in abstract, but if I see that in America they are doing the remigration, hey, it's working, it's very difficult to argument against the reality.
Yeah. Guido, to give a conclusion of our talk, what's your general opinion on Meloni and her term as Prime Minister? What rate would you give her?
If I judge with the premises that she gave to us, I have to say a 6 out of 10, because she has a lot of good try. I can't see the resultation, but I see that she has done a lot of good try. The Piano Mattei, and now she is doing a law to change the judiciary system in Italy, and the leftist is going crazy because this is one of the most important weapons they have in Italy. So I see where is doing a good work, but for me it's not possible to give her more than 6 because the immigration point is too much important, and you have promised to work against the immigration, and the Italian people think all the immigration, and I think that is not quite correct to play with words and say now we are legal immigration, so it's different. No, you have won the election because you have say that you fight against the immigration, not the legal immigration and the illegal immigration. Because if you use this argument, tomorrow the leftists can simply say, okay, everyone who come in Italy, will give him the citizenship. Now everyone is legal. But of course, you are not solving the problem. You are worsening the problem.
Yeah. I was very, very much more critical about her. I was writing about her in Poland until she will reach the level of Donald Trump. I just don't trust her, and I hope she will reach that level.
I have to confess that in this day I was speaking with my friends, maybe people who vote for Meloni. So I have realized that I was too much critical, and they speaking with me. They have remember me, and they have done a lot of example. And so for your for our chat, I was more moderate. If we have done this chat 2 weeks ago, probably my vote will be a 4 out of 10.
Okay. Guido, thank you very much for this talk. You are a member of CasaPound. You have also a youth wing, Blocco Studentesco, yes, as far as I remember.
Yes.
You are available in social media. Can people find you on X?
Yes, you can find more or less me on all over the social. But maybe I'll write in the comment because it's an Italian word, Progetto Razzia, which is my political social project, which I work on YouTube, X, Telegram, etc.
Of course, because you have a huge channel on YouTube, that's Progetto Razzia. You have more than 10,000 subscribers at the moment, so it's a
yes.
great success. I wish you 100,000 in the future.
Thank you very much.
So we urge everybody now when YouTube is doing automatic dubbing, you can listen to Guido in English also on YouTube.
Yes, actually there are already more or less 10, 20 my video in English, and I think that someone it could be very interesting for non-Italian people.
So Guido, thank you very much. I wish you all the best, and I hope we will talk once more in the future.
Okay, thank you very much to you, Mariusz. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.